Hey, this is Brindle Wolf.
And I'm Lunaria.
You're listening to Rise Awakenings, part of the Rise Radio Network where advice meets action.
We're here to spark your growth, lift your spirit, and help you crush your potential.
Rise awakening, hear the call, through the static, we break the wall. Your station, your voice where dreams awaken in time. Rise awakening, now is the time.
Rise Awakenings, let's rise together.
Feel the hum beneath your skin, a pulse of light, let it begin. The night dissolves, the day will spin. Rise awakenings, hear the call, through the static, we break the wall. Your station, your voice where dreams awaken and climb. Rise awakenings, now is the time. Echoes bloom, they bend and glide, a signal surging deep inside. From shadows grip, we rise and rise. Tune the whispers, find your way. Tomorrow starts with sound today. Rise awakenings, hear the call, through the static, we break the wall. Your station, your voice where dreams awaken and climb. Rise awakenings, now is the time. Start with the quiet parts, the things you hide behind your laugh. Sit with the ache a while. Let every question breathe and ask, who was I trying to be? Who am I when I just stay? Name every tender scar and let them have their say. This is the blue from the soil of your sorrow, petals from pain, new color in tomorrow. You walk through the dark with a soft, steady truth, holding your heart till your heart carries you. the blue. Pages of old beliefs, stories that kept you playing small. Lay them out on the floor, see which ones never fit at all. Offer your younger self a kindness you never knew. Whisper you're safe with me and feel it turning true. This is the bloom from the soil of your sorrow. Petals from pain, new color in tomorrow. You walk through the dark with a soft, steady truth, holding your heart till your heart carries you. This is the blue. In the shadow you found treasure, in the breaking you found room. Every tear became a river, watering what's coming through. Now you rise not as perfection, but as someone deeply real. Every part you tried to silence learns it's finally allowed to heal. The stars that bloom from the soil of your sorrow. Petals from pain, new color in tomorrow. You walk through the dark with a soft, steady truth, holding your heart till your heart carries you. This is the This is the blue.
Welcome, welcome, everyone. Happy Monday. This is already going to be a great week, and we are carrying on the conversation that Micah and I started on Wednesday. So let us dive in. If you're new here, the content shared in this podcast is based on my personal experience and the knowledge that I've gained along my educational and healing journeys. The information is shared in the greatest degree of love and is intended to resonate with whoever it may to assist in your healing journey. Please feel free to take what resonates and leave what doesn't. And remember, this is a judgment-free, safe space. Please refrain from any form of bullying, harassment, or toxic behavior. And if you cannot hold space with us, you will be removed. Chat questions will be answered in the order in which they have been received in relation to the topic, and I will get to as many as time allows. And to the man behind the curtain, Micah, aka Papa, thank you for putting the questions on the screen, and thank you for doing your press and buttons thing and all that you do. And if you feel called to dive in deeper into your own personal growth and evolution, I am for hire as a transformational coach, trauma specialist, Reiki master teacher, and fully ordained minister. The Healing Rose is a 501c3 affiliate chapel with the Alliance of Divine Love, and I would be honored to guide you through your unique journey, both your time with me on healingrose.org. And let's dive in. Are we ready? Now, this topic here is something that needs to be talked about in a little bit more structure and depth, because you might have some aha moments. Over the last few weeks, we've been exploring the idea of authenticity, what it means to be yourself, to fully show up, and to live in truth rather than performance, right? And I'm going to read from my notes. These phrases we're saying are now, we're making them trendy, basically. But today, let's slow things down a bit and let's move beneath those sayings and ask ourselves that one simple question: who are we when no one is looking? When there's no audience, no expectation, no role to perform, who are you then? Are you guarded? Are you relaxed, playful, or quiet, sad, hopeful, motivated, angry, tender, honest? Many of us believe that when no one is watching, we are our most authentic selves. There is relief in privacy, right? We can exhale. We don't have to manage perception. And yet, here's the conundrum. If we believe our truest self only exists in private, how do we bring that self into the world where people are looking? People. Ah. If authenticity feels safe only in solitude, what does that mean to live authentically in relationship and community and in society? Well, let's talk about it. Okay. First, we need to acknowledge something very important, that social norms exist for a reason. They help us with sharing space without harming one another. They protect dignity, right? These social norms, some of them are in place for a reason. They support coordination, care, and mutual respect. Thank you for the question. We're coming to that. For example, our bodies, okay? And I'm going to turn into a 12-year-old for a minute. We all have bodily functions, right? And most of us agree that it's loving and respectful not to release award-winning belches in public or leave aromatic reminders of last night's dinner in public spaces, right? That's not, that restraint is not repression. It's just caring for other people. And yet, even here, with this example, in some cultures, it does matter. Certain bodily expressions are seen as compliments or signs of satisfaction. What's considered appropriate in one place may be entirely different in another. So that tells us something very important. Who we are allowed to be in public is deeply shaped by society, culture, and religion. What's normal here is not a universal truth. It's a local agreement. So, let's talk about when norms protect and when they overreach, okay? Healthy norms say do no harm, but over time, society often extends those rules beyond harm, prevention, and into personality suppression. Once norms move from don't hurt others to don't make people uncomfortable, the burden shifts from collective care to individual containment. And this is where authenticity begins to fracture. Okay? The parts of ourselves we learn to hide. Let's go back to the original question of who are we when no one's looking, and let's change that. Let's change that to who are you in private that doesn't fit the norms in this society? What parts of yourself do you dim, soften, silence when you step out into the world? Here is the most common parts of the self that gets hidden, not because they're harmful, but because they are unfamiliar or unprocessed in others. Okay, so my favorite topic, of course, is emotional depth, right? Feeling deeply is not a social norm, is it? Right? Expressing grief openly, being moved to tears for something beautiful or painful, naming emotional truths that disturb the good vibes only culture, right? Depth makes people uncomfortable when they haven't been taught to sit with their own emotions. So the deep feelers get labeled too much. How many of you are too much? Healthy anger versus truth telling, right? Naming injustice, setting clear boundaries, saying that's not okay with me, refusing to be pleasant at your own expense. Okay, how many times have we been polite and laughed just to be palatable and agreeable? Because the social norm is the stuff that's unhealthy, right? Unhealthy. Okay, so let's go to this next one. Healthy, regulated anger isn't violent, but it's clarifying. And so I think we need to make sure that we understand that Sometimes the healing process is going to be against social norms because it's often rejected because it invites an accountability. Okay, so we have to understand that aspect of certain emotional things that we are doing that's healthier for ourselves, but so not the social norms. Okay, let's talk about playfulness and joy. You know, that's one of my favorite topics, right? Yes, the healing is typically against the social norms, the healing process. You're right. Like the healing process has to include playfulness and joy. That helps in the healing process. Spontaneous laughter, childlike excitement, expressive movement, delight without irony. Let me explain this one, okay? The New York Times spoke of this one. It refers to experiencing genuine joy, pleasure, or admiration for something in a direct, sincere, and unironic way. It is the opposite of cynical or detached hipster approach to life, where enjoyment often mediated by irony, sarcasm, or the need to appear above the thing being enjoyed. Sincerity and earnestness brings appreciating something for what it is rather than for how it can be mocked or recontextualized. I grew up in sarcasm was used nonstop, and even in ways that over our accomplishments and over our emotions. Like, oh, she's being oversensitive today, isn't she? Like just or some kind of joke, right? It comes out that way. Things like reclaiming wonder, finding delight in everyday or mundane things. We talk about magic in the mundane here, where things are enjoyed without the exhaustion of cynical, weary, and overly cool takes, right? Because the norm is more like very surface level. I think that's a good way to say it. Vulnerability. That's a huge not social norm. Allowing ourselves to be truly moved and or impressed, which means bypassing the protective armor that irony hides. Okay. Direct engagement, seeing the world directly without a filter, without filtering through layers of subtext or parody. So the best comedians have lived through a lot of trauma themselves and use humor to minimize and diminish what they experienced. That's the social norm. Okay. Unrestrained joy can trigger discomfort, envy, and self judgment in cultures that prize control and seriousness, right? Softness and vulnerability. That's another not socially normal. Asking for help. How many people pleasers don't ask for help, right? Naming fear or uncertainty, admitting overwhelm, offering tenderness in hardened spaces. Vulnerability is often seen as weakness in certain professional and social settings, right? It's more acceptable in private, but in public, we mask to preserve the image of competence. So if you went to your boss crying, usually you're seen as incompetent unless your boss is friggin' amazing, right? But what's really happening here? Okay. When these parts of us are shamed, it's really about us. It's about unmet emotional literacy. People can only meet you to the depths and capacity they have met themselves. Unhealed shame blocks their potential and limits potentially yours. Unexamined conditioning, so the limiting beliefs that they project onto you, right? The fear of being seen and perceived. I feel like this needs to be a whole different Phoenix Talks, Micah. The fear of being seen and perceived. People can only welcome in what they've been allowed to welcome in themselves, okay? The cost of suppressing yourself in public. When we amputate parts of ourselves in order to belong and be accepted, our joy diminishes, our creativity narrows, the nervous system stays guarded, relationships remain shallow and surface level, identity splits into public and private selves. God, that sounds exhausting. This is why so many people feel alive when they're alone and exhausted in company. So let's realize that authenticity is not reckless rebellion against the norms, right? Let's be clear, authenticity is not about abandoning all the norms, okay? Or expressing every impulse without discernment. Love calls us to wisdom, right? We're healing, we're becoming wiser. The work is not rebellion, it's discernment. Discernment to understand where you're safe to be your fullest expression. Ask yourself these questions. Which norms protect life and dignity, and which norms merely protect comfort and control? Authenticity does not mean oversharing, it means honest with care. Okay? So here's how to make ourselves feel safe in public, because we like to talk about that. And then I'll get all your questions and comments. Authenticity grows through small, loving experiments. Okay. In a meeting, instead of pretending everything is fine, you say, I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed today and I'm still finding my footing. Let me get back to you. In a tense moment, you're allowed to allow yourself to a genuine laugh or a smile. Like, this is especially helpful in situations where there's heavy grief, and laughter is the best medicine. Sometimes it'll remember a story about them, the person, and it'll bring joy. So like, that's a courageous thing to do, because the norm is to be super serious and, not think of making a joke. At a gathering, you can let yourself be playful instead of perfectly composed and stiff and like what you think they need you to be, right? These moments feel risky because they loosen the mask, but they also invite in connection. So this is your homework for this week. This is your gentle practice for this week. Okay, we understand the social norms, of course, are like invisible scripts that shape how we express ourselves, but we need to be careful not to oversimplify them. They're not just external rules. They also come from a place of safety, belonging, and sometimes survival. We know that what often happens, though, is that we internalize these norms, right? Everybody internalizes all those norms, and we silence aspects of ourselves when we go out in public. Maybe a sense of wonder or vulnerability, or even a sense of humor. And this dimming, this shrinking is often a form of self-protection, right? So we don't risk being judged or misunderstood. Now, when we get curious about this, we can begin to identify those parts of ourselves that we hide, okay? And from there, we can take small steps, moments of courage, to express them and test the waters, even in a subtle way. And by doing that, we begin to recalibrate our authenticity out there in the real world, in our interactions, okay? We don't need to be reckless about it. We just need to be honest. So this week, I invite everyone to really observe what parts of you have been silenced, what might happen if you let just a little bit of that shine. Notice when you censor yourself, and pause and ask yourself, what am I afraid would happen if I express this? Okay? Then in a safe space, let one small piece of your private self meet the world. Not all at once, not for approval, but for your truth, for the truth, okay? You're never meant to be fully understood by society, built on averages, mediocrity, and convenience, okay? Your fullness is not a flaw, it's a signal, a homing beacon, right? A homing beacon, powerful self-acceptance with permission. And when one person gives themselves permission to be fully human, it quietly widens the emotional bandwidth of the world. Yes, you have the power to do that. So may you choose love over performance. May you choose compassion over concealment. And may our authentic presence become an offering, not just for ourselves, but for everyone. Let's get started. I'm going to answer some things now. So the safety, the first question was, where is it safe to be yourself? I hope I answered that in the here's what you can do to take baby steps to find where you're safe. So let's see. what kind of shares we have here. We have a lot going on in the chat, so I will need a second to catch up. Let's see. Yeah, you're not as jokey, right? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about sense of humor. And so I'm bringing that up because a lot of us also don't understand where the cultural sensitivities are, so that we're not alienating or diminishing any specific demographic. Okay. So we're self-aware of how we present, and our jokes are harmless as far as appropriateness in the circumstances and situations. So that's a conscious awareness thing. But when you're in spaces and places where that's not the case, and where it's meant to diminish another person, where there's someone being attacked as a matter of joking or humor, right? You're going to step in. So there's a couple pieces to this. I'll get to yours, Michael, in a second. There's a couple pieces to this. Because when someone's being attacked, how we can show up authentically and fearlessly is to step in and ask the person making that joke that's inappropriate, what did you mean to express by saying that? What was your intention and context behind that? How did you mean to make the person feel by stating that? Just saying those things returns it completely on the other person and changes the whole dynamic of that scenario. And now you've just stood up to a bully for someone to feel like, oh, good, I'm not going to give a fake polite laugh at my expense. So you help people in that way. I don't believe in calling something weird in a negative way. I believe we are our norms, and we have our perception of someone else's norms. Yes. Yes. And in the context of what we're talking about here, being aware of other people's perspectives is very helpful in how in making sure that we align ourselves with that heart-centered space when we move forward, and bravely add in things. So if you're in a space and place, and I hope that, thank you for sharing that. So I hope that that ties into everything for you. The other part of your other question was you hiding your sense of humor. So I don't want you to hide your sense of humor. I feel like that's an icebreaker in different situations, as long as your sense of humor is neutral and does not attack any a single person, gender, religion, culture, that whole gamut. So allow yourself to try and see how it shifts the entire energy. This is especially useful in tense corporate or work environments. And if it's a joke that is relatable to the person that is a little tense, it may soften them a little. So don't be afraid to show up as you, as long as you've done the whole is it true, relevant, and kind, respectful kind of thing before it leaves your mouth, and you discern properly. Let's see, what else do we have? Just because I've come to realize it isn't real for me in any sense doesn't mean it's not real for someone else. That's correct. That's correct. That's absolutely correct. And that being said, that works in both directions. So if the bully believes that they're perfectly fine in doing what they're doing, but you in your heart know that that's not in alignment with love, and you need to support the individual who's being mocked at their expense, that's also where you can share your alternative perspective. It's an opportunity to shed light and illuminate what it is that their beliefs are, because if their beliefs are not in alignment with love and is creating dysregulation in your space, you have every right to give your perspective and turn it back on the other person for reflection, because you do have the power to affect change in those around you when you approach it with, I'm confident in myself, I'm good with who I am, I'm good with the love that I bring to the table, and here's how I can help. I can help by making you question things, or by perhaps maybe making you look like it wasn't as funny as you think it was, and then you can kind of go from there if you're at a lower vibration. Right? So who else? What else do we struggle with? Bubble kittens. I'm told I think I'm too deep, too nice, too loving, too everything, and I'm embarrassing. Okay, that tells me you're neurodivergent. Yes, to all of the above. But why is that? Why is that? And remember, because it is societal norms to keep us in fear, to maintain control and power over us. We're going to be angry and sad all the time. And joy makes us uncomfortable because most people are existing from the programming that is unhealthy. So the social norms are going to see you as a threat to their social norm. Honey, amplify it, make it bigger. That's quite all right. The more people that don't perform, the more they won't feel like they have to. Exactly. Exactly. You give others permission. And I think this is what I want everyone to take away with today. If you examine that this social norm is just for other people's comfort, for others people, ego, then you can choose to show up differently in how you speak and in what you do. Listen, I still shut down my own joy because, social norms and the conditioning, but then I realize it and I'm like, well, I'm not going to do that again. Well, shit, I robbed myself of my joy. An example is, okay, so this weekend on Thursday, I'm sorry, on Saturday, I was with two other individuals and we were headed into a location. And of course, me being me, I started to kind of skip, but it was like, we're off to see the wizard. And I started skipping and I got to like 2 skips and I stopped abruptly. And then I just started walking because in my mind, the social norms for seeing someone doing that is that person's looking for attention. With all that's going on in the world, how dare they be joyful? So I stopped myself. And the next day at Sunday Circle, the person who was with me on that day said, you mean when you were skipping, I was going to join you and then I didn't because you stopped. And I said, oh, you see, I screwed it up. I'm not going to stop ever again. I'm going to keep going. But that's what I mean. Like, you can't be afraid of the social norm. You don't know who it's going to inspire. You don't know who it's going to give permission to. Permission. You're giving society permission. That's it. Does it match? Who are you when everyone is looking? And does it match? That's your examination homework. And then decide in what ways you're going to show up differently that will make people uncomfortable. Yes, intentionally. In a very quiet and powerful way that's not intrusive, dismissive, invalidating, or hurtful. Okay? So it's going to be practice. You're going to need some practice. Who else? Who wants to answer that? Like, who has an answer for who are you when no one's watching? I know, Michael, you said you're a lot funnier in private or with specific groups of people. Bubble kittens, do you practice being all of those amazing things that you are at home, or did society silence you? And can we get you back to being your fullest expression? Because that's the joy that's needed in this world. So that one's for you specifically, that question. So Lunaria says always call the drama queen. So when I hear that, I hear you're speaking truth and that's irritating everyone's shadows. So your truth is asking individuals to be accountable for their thought patterns and behaviors, and they don't have the capacity to do that. So they're going to flip the script and tell you to gaslight and diminish and invalidate what you're saying and make it smaller. So I say when they call you drama queen, you're doing something right. My neighbor and I skipped arm in arm. Oh, yes, to the grocery store yesterday. That's right. You got some weird looks, but who cares? That's amazing. Yes, I love that. I want you to be your fullest expression without fear and just observe the reactions of others. And this is why it's discernment, because it gives you an opportunity to see who's going to bounce off of your vibe. Okay. It's like a honing beacon. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, let people see you, let them find the lighthouse. It's not going to be safe in every environment. You can't be super silly in certain corporate environments because there are like company standards and their policies and procedures for behavior at the office. So, there is a balance that needs to occur, but allow yourself the courage to test the waters a little bit, just a little tiny bit here and there. That's all. If I'd have kept skipping, it would have been two of us skipping. So don't diminish yourself is the real goal. Use your discernment of how much of your expression is viewed in certain circles, but don't diminish yourself anymore. Okay? Okay, there's a lot to read here, so let's see what we got. What do we got going on? Trying to see. Sorry for the pause. Here we go. Michael, see, that's why I realized legal work works best for me. I've never had an issue stepping in for someone else and protect them without fear or anxiety in doing so. Helping people come to understand another person has been a strength of mine. That's wonderful. And I can't read the rest of it. I got to find it. Oh, thank you. When conflict resolution, I'm good at it. There's a summary. Thank you. That's amazing. Yes, that makes such an impact out there in the world. Spread that everywhere. Don't just leave it at the legal office or whatever. Just spread it everywhere, because that's what's going to be necessary in this next stage of our human experience collectively. Okay? Yes, and I Bubble Kittens, I see that you're getting back to who you are slowly but surely. So I want you to have more courage in doing so, knowing that you have a support network here on Rise Awakenings to encourage you to be your fullest expression. Listen, I'm right there with you. I've been called all of those things. I've been called dramatic. I've been told that I'm the problem because I'm stating things that are factual and disruptive. I don't care. I'm going to be goofy and silly and playful. Life is more full and fulfilling when you're playful and joyful, and when you bring your fullest expression out there without filters, with discernment and wisdom, though. There's the difference, okay? But life is so much better for you. And that's the whole point, isn't it? We want a better life for ourselves. And Lunaria, when we are in a in-between stage and in that limbo kind of a stage where we're not quite back to who we are, we don't know who we are, we don't know who we're becoming. It's kind of this weird fucking limbo, excuse my language. When you're in that stage, this is the perfect opportunity to choose what feels good to you. This is where you lean into what's made my heart happy, what feels good, what feels natural, what feels right, what puts me in my flow, and decide for yourself what that is. Like your example of skipping, that's your joy. You are joy. And so that to me is something that is a part of who you are, that feels right and feels natural, and that's what you're going to take with you. I usually take people by surprise and throw them off guard when I act silly, and then flip between serious and playful. Hard for people to handle and keep up with. That sounds like a them problem. Your fellow weirdos will be able to keep up just fine. And that's the whole point of being authentic. How are people going to find you? You know, there's a lot of us who are alone out there, lonely, or, you know, all these things that are compounding because we just don't really relate or resonate with people anymore. If we don't allow ourselves to be seen in our fullest expression with wisdom and care, how are they supposed to find us, and we supposed to find them? Okay? Because we'll see them, we'll know them from their response to us and from their matching our vibe or enjoying our energy. And so you will feel safe in the right company, and that's okay. And us neurospicy people are just giant children who are much wiser, but we're still like a child. We still want to play and explore and be curious and have adventures. I don't think I've known a single neurospice who has not been any of those things. Michael says, I'm not getting back to who I was because I love the person I've become. I don't hate who I was, but I'm glad I finally broke out of my own chrysalis and spread my wings. Yes, 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 yes. Now spread those wings out there in society in ways you've never tried before. Because we want to break the habit of being tethered and boxed in and diminished by social norms just for ego's comfort and control, right? So that in and of itself is kind of a little, you know, rebellion, but not. I know this is an adventure. Just our radio station is an adventure, right? We go on adventures all the time. Now I know there's a lot of chat happening, and this is absolutely fabulous, but I want to share with you if everyone's done asking questions. Let me just make sure everyone's okay. I've had 2 X5s, a mother, a grandmother, and 8 months. Yes. Okay. I'm reading. Thank you for your patience. A lot of interaction. This is a great chat, by the way. I'm looking for questions or comments that I might be able to speak on if necessary, but it looks like it was pretty clear. Wow, great conversation, y'all. So we're here, aren't we? Thank you, Cash Angels. Yes, we are. And to Michael's, let's go on an adventure. We are on an adventure now. So with that, I'm going to share something beautiful that I want you to take a moment to close your eyes and put a hand on your heart. And I want you to breathe into your heart space. Okay, so everybody get yourself comfortable for a moment and let these words resonate in your heart. And breathe into your heart space slowly and intentionally with an open heart, okay? So we gather not as fragments on this adventure, not as masks, not as perfect versions of ourselves, but as whole beings breathing together in shared humanity. May we remember that we are not separate from love. We are expressions of it, moving through bodies, emotions, stories, and seasons. May we soften the places where we have learned to perform for belonging. May we release the quiet exhaustion of maintaining appearances. May we gently lay down the armor we no longer need. May we be present with who we are when no one is watching. And may we learn how to bring the truth into the world with wisdom, care, and compassion. May we honor the purpose of healthy boundaries and social agreements, those that protect dignity, safety, and life, while releasing the rules that taught us to shrink, silence, or dim ourselves for the comfort of others. May we trust the intelligence of our emotions. May grief be allowed to breathe. May joy be welcomed without apology. And may healthy anger be recognized as a signal, not a threat, a sacred messenger calling us back to truth, boundaries, and self respect. May we remember that when others struggle with our depth, it is not because we are too much, but because depth invites reflection, responsibility, and growth. May we be tender with our nervous systems, especially in moments when authenticity feels risky. May we move slowly. May we choose safety over urgency. May we practice honesty in ways that do not abandon ourselves. May we release the false belief that authenticity must be loud, dramatic, or disruptive. Let us remember that truth can be quiet, presence can be powerful, and discernment is an act of love. May we cultivate courage through small sacred acts, a truthful sentence spoken gently, a boundary held with steadiness, a moment of playfulness allowed to surface, a breath taking without explanation. May we create communities where sincerity is safer than irony, where vulnerability is met with respect, and where no one is required to amputate parts of themselves in order to belong. May we trust that our fullness is not an inconvenience, it is a signal, a homing beacon, calling us home to ourselves and quietly expanding the emotional capacity of the world around us. May we choose love over performance. May we choose compassion over concealment. And may our authentic presence becoming offering, not just of ourselves, but for all. In love and light, we find harmony and strength. Thank you for letting me share that. Yes, these come through. I use AI to help me. So basically, I talk into AI, and it takes my ADHD disorganized mess and structures it. But these are words that come through me to talk about, and AI helps me make them cohesive and flow. um, Thank you. So I want you to let that sit in your heart, and I want you to let yourself go onward in your week and the following weeks, just observing how you show up. And that's a great way to get to know yourself and decide what doesn't feel right and what does feel right. Okay? You are so beautiful, all of you. I love you all so, so, so much. It's only 11:45, but you know what? I feel like y'all are fulfilled. Do y'all feel fulfilled? Let's see in the comments if y'all feel fulfilled. And if there's any last items that need to be addressed, I can. Okay? But I think we all need to let this just settle in there, simmer down in there, let it integrate into our experience. I hope this was helpful, and I'm grateful to share. And the bloom is a reflection of my Sunday circle, so you're all there with me here in this platform. And this is our community where we can be the fullest expression of ourselves in love. Okay? Oh, I love you. I love you all so much. Yes, and just a reminder, there is no Phoenix Talks this week. There's no Messengers this week. There's no Brindle's Vision this week. And if I'm forgetting something, I'm sorry, but there is the core. So you're not going to see us again until Thursday. And whatever are you going to do with yourselves for that time? That Gee, might be a good time to practice discovering. I love you all so much. Please find me on all the socials, Facebook and Instagram, not all the socials, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. You'll find Phoenix Talks in the Core on Micah's page and also on Carrie's page, and I still am technologically deficient. So I need to get everything over onto my YouTube. But healingrose.org is my booking platform. And I want you all to have an amazing, uplifting, courageous week where you're experimenting with letting yourself be seen. Ooh, that's a challenge. We got this, though. We got this. I love y'all so much. Thank you for being with me.
From the soil of your sorrow, petals from pain, new color in tomorrow. You walk through the dark with a soft, steady truth, holding your heart till your heart carries you. This is the This is the blue.
Hey, this is Brindle Wolf.
And I'm Lunaria.
You're listening to Rise Awakenings, part of the Rise Radio Network where advice meets action.
We're here to spark your growth, lift your spirit, and help you crush your potential.
Rise awakening, hear the call. Through the static, we break the wall. Your station, your voice where dreams awaken in life. Rise awakening, now is the time.
Rise Awakenings. Let's rise together.